So after looking at the game, much like we talked about yesterday, thought it was a physical game. Um, Thought we didn't get off to the start we wanted to, certainly on offense, and really took us a little while to kind of get going and adjust and be able to move the ball productively. And once we kind of figured that out, I thought we were okay. Put together some drives there in between the second, third quarter, fourth quarter. We're able to move the ball some. Um, Defensively, we had some stretches where we played well overall. Kind of bottled them up a little bit, and then obviously we gave up the big run there in the in the third quarter. That that was the one that we were trying to avoid all week, if you will. But he found some space there, and obviously he's tough to tackle in the open field and ran away from us a little bit. So I thought we were competitive in the kicking game. Thought we made some plays in the return game yesterday, which we have been kind of working towards trying to improve that part of our game. I thought we got some production. Amir ran hard on the kickoff returns. I thought AJ punted well. I thought we covered well for the most part. So offensive penalties hurt us early, especially in the game. And had some opportunities there in the fourth quarter, I thought, to make some plays that may have swung the game there. And just we were, like I said, after the game, they made one or two more than we did. So it is what it is. We'll learn from it and try to improve and correct it.
Gosh, Derek kind of alluded yesterday about caring more in the locker room. And whether that's fighting to get on the field if you're injured, doing the right thing in the classroom, in the weight room, all that. Do you share any of that sentiment that maybe there's some guys in the locker room that don't care as much as they should?
I think you'd have to ask him, more specifically, what he was or wasn't referring to. I've talked to Derek. I mean, again, each one of our leaders has a really good pulse on what they think, we may need, relative to energy or practice or mindset or what have you. I mean, in many ways, it's their team as much as it's our team, and so I think they have a great understanding of those kind of things. I would never say that about our football team in general in terms of the guys' attitude and effort to be out there. I mean, you've seen it. I mean, we don't have a lot of guys miss. We have a lot of guys that come back and try to play as soon as possible. That's never been an issue. I would never address that way. I can't speak to what he was referring to specifically. But in my opinion, when you see us out there fighting and grinding and playing hard, and we're right there at the end of the game, like I don't have any issue with the effort or competition that I saw on the field yesterday at all.
When your quarterback and one of your team leaders, and Devontae kind of said the same thing a little bit, when two of your leaders, faces of your team, are kind of alluding to that, does that concern you at all?
No, I think it shows that they care. You know what I mean? And if there's some person or something that they saw that they referenced or that they could reference or speak to, then that's what I would expect them to do. As would I, if I saw it or heard it or something like that. But look, there's a lot of guys in the locker room, and not every player takes winning and losing the same. Not every player is ever going to do that. It's just human nature. Some guys take it some way, some guys take it harder, some guys, don't deal with it that way. I've never tried to get too caught up into that because I think that's, trying to make every player the same after a win or a loss. That's tough sledding. We're not the same kind of people.
Josh, not a gotcha question, but a state of the franchise question for you. When you got hired, the day you were hired, Mark Davis said it's not a rebuild and we're going to go to the next level. Lost 7 of 9 to a coach that never coached in college or the pros and a play caller never called a play. So where is the franchise right now? Where would you say it is?
Yeah, we are building. I never use the word rebuilding or anything like that. It's the National Football League. You don't have enough. There's not 5 years to do that. So we know that. I think there's a process that we're trying to go through. Certainly slower and more painful than anybody wants it to be. We share the same sentiment, but it is what it is. when you go through change, there's some things that you're going to see initially, and there's some things that you're going to see over time. And when you have enough opportunity to make those evaluations and then try to get it right eventually, that's the opportunity that you're hoping for. So we can control what we can control going forward. Like I said, I have no issue with where our effort is or our intentions. Certainly the results are not what anybody wants them to be. But we're going to continue to build and try to do the right thing as we evaluate it going forward. And that's all of us. I know that. I'm not going to stand up here and address, that every single week. But, we all know we're evaluated on what we do, and it's a production-based business.
That Mark Davis,
I'm sorry?
It's stemming from that question that Hondo had. We've seen Mark Davis, after the game, and you guys have had a couple meetings after the game.
Yeah.
How would you describe just his level of urgency or pressure to see some progress?
We meet every week after every game, including the preseason. So I want to make sure I there's no that's a normal occurrence for us. He's been great. He has the same urgency that we all do, if not more. He's been here a long time. He's seen this when it's been good, and he wants to win as bad or worse than anybody else does, and he feels the frustration. At the same time, he's been incredibly supportive, and and that's important, obviously, as you go forward. But we're all here because of him, and we want to do well for him, and we want to do right by him. And so he has whatever he feels. I want to know what it is. I think that's my role, my job is. I hope I always understand where he's at, and he doesn't hide anything from us. And I appreciate the way he leads and his support. And you feel his urgency to try to do whatever he can do to help us get to where we want to be as fast as we can be there. And I don't know what else I could ask from.
Coach, when you look back at the tape just from yesterday, what did you see that you liked or disliked from Sam Webb and Luke Master? Can you just talk about the progress you feel like they've made from training camp to now?
Yeah, I think both really two quality young players that, we were fortunate to get them when we did after the draft. And, I think there's two good examples of guys that have really, they've been out there every day, and they've really progressed throughout the course of the year. Whether it's on the scout team, which a lot of the reps for the first, I'd say, couple months here have been on the scout team. But they're competing every rep, making our players on the offensive side of the ball better. Or they get some reps on defense and then have an opportunity to contribute there as well and learn and grow and improve. And I think both of them have factored into the kicking game literally since the beginning of the season. So unselfish, durable, out there every day, improving, work very hard, study the game plan, whether they're going to play 65 snaps or 10. They're both into it. They both are going through their process as rookies of how do they take care of their bodies. They're doing a good job of maintaining their health. All good examples of what we're looking for from the young guys on our team. That ultimately earn opportunities to play in games like yesterday and show decent for themselves, clearly. There's going to be some things we're going to be able to correct today on tape for both of them, but I thought both of them really played with good effort, made some plays that helped us, and we'll continue to look for that from them going forward.
Josh, when you look at the tape from yesterday, what stands out to you about why you couldn't establish more of a pass rush?
I thought they mixed in some different things relative to the way they were throwing the ball. The RPOs stuff, when you throw those, or, you're kind of playing run while they're throwing it. Those are some things that obviously, your pass rush is a little limited there. They definitely paid some attention to Max for sure yesterday with some chips and tight ends and those kind of things where they put a lot of bodies over there on his side, much of the time. I thought they mixed in some of the quick game stuff that the ball was coming out pretty quickly, which usually limits the rush and the production. So we have to do better on the downs that we can do better on, whether we, if we can create some third and long, some obviously passing situations to be able to provide more rush. But, give them credit. They did some things to kind of slow down some of the things that we wanted to do or we would have been able to do on early downs. I thought they took into consideration with their planning.
Josh, Josh, defensively as a whole, when having the struggles that you're having on that side of the ball, is there a threshold where you start to consider maybe some wholesale changes, whether that's starting lineup, coaching staff, or things of that nature?
There's always, you look at, where you're at and what your production has been. And I think, anytime you consider changing a scheme or a system or a player or anything for that matter, you have to look at, all sides of the equation there. What's the alternative? Is the alternative better? Do you think you have an opportunity to improve? If you do, then you would, consider anything. I think that's our job to look at that and consider it that way. But I also think just, throwing things out there just because you're frustrated with the results doesn't necessarily mean that the results are going to change for the better at all. Matter of fact, they could get dramatically worse, and so I think just, I think the kicking game is an example of that. Like, we've been frustrated, during the course of the year with our lack of production in the return game, and we've continued to try to drip water on the rock and improve it. And I think we're starting to see some improvement there, and we didn't, wholesale change everything and throw everything out the window and say, man, this is all terrible. And, we just continue to try to build and work through it and improve it. I think there's other areas of our game that I would say are similar. But when you're not as productive, I think you got to consider what the alternatives are before you start throwing things away and saying it's not good enough. Because again, the idea is there's probably a reason for it. And whatever the reason is, if it's execution, if it's, the call itself, if it's the plan, if it's the player, whatever it is, we'll figure that out and try to improve it as best we can.
Along those lines, and you mentioned the process in building. At what point also does, maybe seeing what you have for the future and some of the younger players kind of come into play?
I mean, look, I think that's all part of this, and we have to look at it as if, look, this is a long-term process where we're going to try to do something where we can sustain it. And it isn't, nobody's happy with what we've done so far in terms of the results. But when you look at the part of the evaluation where you're saying, okay, how are we going to be next year, the year after? Those are all parts of the process that, are frustrating to talk about, but they're the reality of the National Football League is not every player is going to be here next year. Not every coach is going to be here. That's just the way it is. Every team goes through those changes, and people grow, the young players grow and improve, and some of the veteran players sometimes move on or retire, whatever it is. And so we've seen a lot of young players play. You guys have seen Thayer and Dylan and Luke and Sam, and there's been a lot of young players that get an opportunity to play, and they've earned those opportunities. And I think we're still in that portion of our year. They got to earn it, and we're not giving up on anybody at any point in time. And we'll let the competition at practice kind of declare, who's going to go forward and play and participate on Sundays. But we promote the competition every week, and I think some of those guys have really done a good job of earning the opportunity.
Will Ferrell and Matthew Butler were both inactive. Can you talk about that decision and what went into that decision?
Yeah. We had 3 guys on defense that I'd say just, we're going to keep that internally for us. We've handled what we had to handle, and hopefully that will change going forward. But, I think 2 young guys that are learning how to do everything the right way. And, so that's just one of the parts of the process that is sometimes painful. But, I think in the big picture, trying to create a team that's, disciplined and accountable and those kind of things is really important for us. Tough decisions sometimes to make, but it's the right decisions in our mind.
Josh, in talking about a lot of this, you're talking about kind of the future and the plan process and everything. It kind of sounds like Mark Davis has given you an indication that you're good to go and you have a future plan in place that despite all the noise that's out there, I know you don't want to listen to the noise. And is that...
No, I mean, not any time in the recent, like the last 2 to 3 weeks, Paul, if you're asking that. We haven't had some big, clandestine meeting about that. I just, like I said, that's not really my concern is not if somebody tells me that my time is done, then my time is done. You know what I mean? I'm not going to coach like that. I'm going to coach these guys the same way that I've coached them and try to lead the right way, with a good positive attitude and outlook. And I think part of the process is just trying to improve and figure out, how do we get better, yes, in the short term, but also in the long term. And that's sometimes difficult to hear because, everybody wants the results immediately. And I understand that. I get it. I know. I've been in it long enough to understand the why. No big, meeting like that. I just, when we came here, we felt like this was something where there was gonna be an opportunity to try to establish that as we go forward. But ultimately those are decisions that are not in my control. So I'm going to control what I can control and do the best I can at my job. And part of that is continuing to think about the future and next year and what goes on beyond the next few months here.
When you took this job,
Go ahead, Paul. I think he was going to finish something.
And then when you see Derek as emotional as he was at the podium yesterday, what does that do for you as a coach? What's your reaction?
I appreciate it. Derek cares a lot. And, I think Devontae, you saw the same thing from Devontae, a little different, but two guys that care a lot, want to win, put a lot into it, and I think that's just them, sometimes the raw emotion of a leader is a good thing to see, you don't see that every day. So I appreciate that. And I know how hard they work, how much they put into every week to try to do the best that they can to help us. It means a lot to them. And I think we got a lot of guys like that. I really do. I know not every guy goes to the podium and gets an opportunity to speak like that, but I think we got a lot of guys that, are disappointed in the result, but also a lot of guys that, really, have worked hard and banded together to try to put us in position to win some of these games. And we just, we've fallen short, and that comes back to me.
Yeah, when you took over in January, did you anticipate some of those, you mentioned the frustrating long-term things that sometimes maybe fans don't want to hear about.
Yeah.
Did you anticipate that there was going to be a fair share of?
I mean, we all try to work to win every week. I mean, that's what we're doing. That's what we spend all our time on. So to sit there and think about that and talk about it, I mean, we're not trying to do anything other than win every game, and that's what we will continue to do. I think the reality is I understand, I do understand the short-term history of this place. I was educated on it. They talked to me about it when I came here. Same thing with Dave, and trying to get something together that can last and sustain and win and win and win and win and win. And again, we're not doing enough of it now. We understand that, but at the same time, that was the vision for us to try to figure out, okay, what is going to be part of the future, what isn't, okay, and how we proceed going forward is going to impact that, and who those people are and who they're not. I mean, there's a lot of people that are going to make decisions on that, and so that's one of the things that we were excited about, is there was some urgency to try to figure out, like, how do we do it and sustain it beyond 1 year, and how can we get it to the point where we have a culture and the kind of people on the team that continue to try to uphold that year after year after year, so that you're not going out there in free agency and trying to do too many things to just try to take one swing at it, and then, all right, that didn't work, take another swing at it, and eventually you got something where there's a lot of guys here that know what this organization has been about for a long time, and that's what we're trying to build to. Like I said, I understand the short-term frustration. I get it. I really do. And, but we're going to keep trying to work every week to win. At the same time, we're going to have one eye on what we need to do going forward to try to make this a place, a sustainable winner. That's what we're going to try to do.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.